Let's talk about immigration in the United States of America. Let's do it, y'all. Okay? Let's talk about immigration in the late 1800s. I know immigration is a hot topic today, but I'm going to show y'all today that immigration has always been a hot topic here in the U.S. But today we're going to learn about when the immigrants, I should say, were the white folks. Hmm. And you'll be able to see some of the similarities between white immigrants and those immigrants of today, and some of the differences. Okay. But before we get into today's edition of Realist History, here on Put It On Some, gotta remind you that I am your homeboy first, and this is the realest, most entertaining show in the game. Put it on some. Again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button. Put all your people on it. Thank God for all of y'all who've been fucking with realist history. Ain't been many. You're special. Okay. This is some of my missionary work. This is some of my I look at this work as a calling. You know, told you the goal of IG Entertainment is to entertain, educate, and inspire. And of course, I know I'm gonna get most of my views off entertaining, but I got to do this right here. I got to do this, okay? Because obviously we need it. But let's not waste any time. Proud of all of y'all who made it through the first chapter on industrialization. If you missed that, make sure you go back and watch those segments. Also, once you watch it, see if you can pass the quiz. Okay, shout out to all of y'all who did well on your quiz. All right. Yeah, I know I do have comments turned off on these videos, on these segments of realist history, just because I don't want any foreign bots. I've had bots on my shit doing crazy shit. I don't want that. I don't want any MAGA motherfuckers up in here trying to fuck with y'all. Okay. If you need my help on anything, just hit me up on one of my socials and I'll help you out. Okay. But without further ado, let's get into it. All right. Our objectives for today. All right. We want to be able to compare the new immigration of the late 1800s to earlier immigration. We want to be able to explain the push and pull factors leading immigrants to America. We want to describe the challenges that immigrants faced in traveling to America. And lastly, we want to analyze how immigrants adapted to American life while trying to maintain familiar cultural practices. Okay, those are our objectives. Let's look at some of these key terms that we will see later on in the lesson. All right, quote unquote, new immigrant. These are immigrants coming from Southern and Eastern Europe. Okay, Southern and Eastern European immigrant who arrived in the United States in a great wave between 1880 and 1920. We'll talk more about that momentarily. Steerage, third class accommodations on a steamship, which were usually overcrowded and dirty. Ellis Island, island in New York Harbor that served as an immigration station for millions of immigrants arriving to the United States. So that's going to be on the East Coast, y'all. All right. In contrast, Angel Island, immigrant processing station that opened in San Francisco Bay in 1910. So we got to be able to contrast Ellis Island and Angel Island. Y'all will be able to do that. Americanization, believe that assimilating immigrants into American society will make them more loyal citizens. The quote unquote melting pot, you hear that a lot. You hear that metaphor when it comes to America quite often. But we're going to get some real shit on that metaphor, okay? But melting pot, society in which people of different nationalities assimilate to form one culture. Nativism, belief that native born white Americans are superior to newcomers. Still see a lot of that today. We just elected, or they just elected a nativist. Okay. So that idea is alive and well. Chinese Exclusion Act, 1882 law that prohibited immigration by Chinese laborers. All right, so those are our key terms and people for this particular section. Okay, let's look at our overarching question. It says, why did immigrants come to the United States, and what impact did they have upon society? Okay, immigrants came to the U.S. for religious and political freedom, for economic opportunities, and to escape wars. Immigrants adopted parts of American culture, and Americans adopted parts of immigrant cultures. Okay, so you see, motherfuckers came over here for various reasons, and when they came, they made an impact on America. America made an impact on them. And that's the same type of shit that happens today. The foreign born population of the US nearly doubled between 1870 and 1900. Okay. In the 1840s and 1850s, German and Irish Catholics had immigrated to the United States. Despite differences, their children were often able to blend into American society. But starting in 1870, some people feared, quote unquote, new immigrants would destroy American culture. Now, don't forget, I just taught y'all about the industrial age. Okay. We're still in the same time period. We're just on a different topic. Okay. So you still got all these fucking factories, you got all these new jobs, and these are the folks who finna come in and fill those positions. Okay. So that's why the shit gonna double during that time. Because the motherfuckers wanted those jobs filled. These people coming in desperate, needing jobs. There you go. Okay. But a lot of motherfuckers who are already here didn't really like the new immigrants coming in. Now we still talking about Europeans now. So we talking about white folks looking down on other white folk. Okay. That's what it was like. Late 1800s. Let's go. Old immigrants and quote unquote new immigrants. Old immigrants, meaning white immigrants who came in pre 1870s. Excuse me. They were mainly Protestants from Northern and Western Europe. Okay. They came as families to settle on farms with family members or friends. Okay. And generally speaking, all of this is generally speaking again. Okay. Generally speaking, they had money, a skill, a trade, or an education. Now, when we say Protestants, Christianity, you got a lot of different types of Christians. Okay. But basically speaking, overall, you can break Christianity down into Catholicism and Protestants. Okay. And Catholicism, that's your Catholics. And then with the Protestants, you got a whole lot of different denominations under that. So you got Baptists, you got Methodists, you got Presbyterians, you got Lutherans, you got you name it. Okay. All the various different types of Christians that you got. Now let's look at your quote unquote new immigrants. These are immigrants who were coming in post the 1870s. They were mainly Catholics or Jews coming from Southern and Eastern Europe. So let's differentiate. If we're talking Northern Europe and Western Europe, we're talking about England, we're talking about Ireland, shit like that. Okay. If you're talking about Southern and Eastern Europe, you're talking about like Italy, okay, down in Southern Europe, Eastern Europe. You might be talking about shit that's more closer to Russia. You know what I'm talking about? A lot of folks didn't like that. A lot of folks didn't like them people. Okay. They sometimes came alone, usually to settle in cities. And these new immigrants were often poor and unskilled. And now remember, we talked about skilled versus unskilled labor during our last chapter. If you missed that shit, skilled labor, That's some labor where, it takes a little training, unskilled labor, doesn't take that much training. Let's keep moving. All right, immigrants to the United States from Southern and Eastern Europe made up 70% of all immigrants after 1900, up from 1% at mid-century. Okay, so you got a lot of these quote unquote new immigrants pouring into this bitch. Push factors for immigration are those that push people from their homes, while pull factors are those that attract them to a new place. Okay, so push factors are those things that make you want to leave a particular place. Pull factors are those things that make you want to go to a particular place. All right, so push factor might be something that make you. Let's say you living in Mississippi. Okay, and I used to do this example with students all the time. Let's say you're living in Mississippi and you say you want to leave Mississippi. And you might say, I want to leave Mississippi because of lack of things to do. That's a push factor. I want to leave Mississippi because of lack of jobs. That's a push factor. Okay. Then you had to figure out where you want to go then. Where you going? Okay. Well, your pull factor is, let's say you want to go to Atlanta. All right. Your pull factor about Atlanta is more job opportunities, more things to do. They have numerous sports teams. All your big name artists gonna go there and shit and perform. You feel me? So these are pull factors. These are things that make you want to go to that particular place. So you had push factors that made these immigrants leave their homeland, and then you had pull factors that made them want to come here. Okay, so let's look at some of the push factors for these quote unquote new immigrants of the late 1800s. All right. It says farmers were pressured by land reform and low prices. Okay. So the pull factor to the United States was the U.S. offered plentiful land, employment, and opportunity. Okay, we had the industrial revolution going on. So hell, they come over here, find a job, and their job gonna be very fucking difficult, but they can have a job. Push factor: revolution and war disrupted economies and left political refugees. Pull factor: many quote unquote chain immigrants already had family in the U.S. So you got fuck shit going on in your homeland, well, you may have some kinfolk who've already moved to the United States and say, hey, y'all come on over here, shit. You ain't got to deal with that bullshit over there. Y'all come on over here. Live with me. There you go. All right. Push factor. Religious persecution forced many to flee violence. All right. Pull factor about America is immigrants could find religious and political freedom in America. Okay. When we look at the First Amendment, we often focus on just freedom of speech, but also you have the freedom of religion. In the United States, you're supposed to have the freedom to worship however you want to worship or to not worship at all. Okay. Some countries are like that. Historically, many countries. You had to goddamn believe in whatever the fucking ruler believed in. If you ain't do that, you better shut the fuck up. You're gonna get your ass fucked up. Okay. America's not supposed to be like that. Now we see a rise in many who want America to be like that. We got quote unquote Christian nationalists that think that this should be just a strictly Christian nation. And if you're on some different shit, that you should get the fuck out or be persecuted. But based on the First Amendment, that ain't how shit supposed to go. Let's go. All right, coming to America was often a tough decision. Immigrants usually brought only what they could carry and traveled by steamship in steerage. Now, I want y'all to pay attention to this image right here. Okay, look at that image. See, this usually when I used to teach children, this used to fuck them up because when they think immigrant, they usually think Mexican. They used to think some Latino, some Hispanic. But I try to tell them, look, make sure you pay attention to the date on that damn state test. And if they're talking about immigration pre 60s, pre 1960s, it's white folks, especially in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's white people. You don't get a country that's majority white like this without them being the main immigrants. Okay. And you see they came over here. Most of them poor, is trying to get it. You feel me? Just trying to get it. Desperate. Not knowing the language, just like many of the immigrants today. Okay. Now, when the immigrants arrived after their long journeys, they were processed at stations such as Ellis Island in New York Harbor. There, officers conducted legal and medical inspections. Only 2% were denied entry into the U.S. That's at Ellis Island now, y'all. Most of those immigrants going to Ellis Island were coming from Europe. In contrast, Chinese and other Asian immigrants crossing the Pacific were processed at Angel Island in San Francisco Bay. Many Chinese were turned away. Some Chinese immigrants were detained at Angel Island for weeks or months in poor conditions. They waited to see if they would be allowed to stay in the United States. That's discrimination, y'all. That's textbook discrimination. I ain't making this shit up. I ain't writing none of this shit. These historians who wrote this shit, I'm just delivering it to y'all. This is what happened in America. This is what happened. This is racist immigration policy. Where in Ellis Island, you're coming from Europe, they pretty much gonna let your ass up in there. Only 2% were denied entry in the US. Angel Island, most of these motherfuckers come from Asia. Many Chinese were turned away. That's just racial discrimination. Textbook. Let's go. Once in America, immigrants had to find a home and work. They also had to learn English and new customs. Many stayed in cities and took jobs in factories. They lived in ethnic neighborhoods called ghettos. Large cities such as New York and Chicago had huge immigrant populations by 1890. Now, let's look at it. I know that word ghetto jumps off the page because today, most time motherfuckers talk about the ghetto, you think about a black neighborhood, a black fucked up neighborhood in some city somewhere. But we're gonna be technical. A ghetto is not just for black people. These were ethnic neighborhoods. These were neighborhoods. Let's clear up something. Let's back up. If we're talking about ethnicity, put that race shit aside. Let's talk ethnicity. Okay. If I could line up a bunch of different white people in front of you, racially speaking, if you look at all of them, skin color is the same. But ethnically speaking, they could be vastly different. Because an ethnic group is a group of people who share a common culture. Okay? A common culture. So I can line a bunch of white folks up in front of you. Pau Gasol is a Spaniard, speaks Spanish, got different kind of customs, different kind of culture than an Englishman. Okay? Like King Charles. Or if I put a German in front of you, like Dirk Nowitzki. If I put a Eastern European in front of you, like Nikola Jokic or Luka Doncic, like all these motherfuckers got different languages, different customs, different cultural practices and shit like that because we're getting to their ethnicity instead of just their fucking skin color. Okay. And so in these big ass cities, these motherfuckers start clicking up based on their ethnic group and not just their fucking racial group, at least at first. Okay. And that led to some tension too. Let's keep it moving. Immigrants had some help coping with their new surroundings. Settlement houses ran Americanization programs to help recent immigrants learn English and adopt American dress and diet. Immigrants formed fraternal associations based on ethnic or religious identity, which provided social services and financial assistance. Okay. So that key term, Americanization, trying to make these motherfuckers more like native born Americans, trying to take these immigrants and put them on game, basically, trying to show them the culture of America, trying to teach them about American customs. Okay. Teach them English, teach them about how Americans dress, teach them what we eat, teach them about what you do on this holiday and that holiday and you, all that kind of shit. Okay. Americanize them. Now, some immigrants went on that shit. Some immigrants wanted to cling to their customs from their homeland. You see that same shit today. When you see some Latinos and shit, you see, especially Mexicans, they'll be rolling around in America. Yeah, they be here in America with the goddamn Mexican flag proudly waving. Well, it was the same shit back then. Italians might have come over here, but they still feel like, hey, I'm an Italian. You know what I'm talking about? Same shit. Same shit. Okay. Many believe that American society was a quote unquote melting pot where white people of different nationalities blended to create a single culture. This model excluded Asian immigrants who became targets of social and legal discrimination. So initially, y'all, this thought of America being melting pot was not supposed to be all this multicultural shit. Oh, in terms of race, okay, not in terms of we're gonna put the blacks in here, we're gonna put the whites in here, we're gonna put the Asians in here, we're gonna put the Native Americans in here, we're gonna mix it all up and we're gonna have this great American society. No, initially this motherfucking idea about melting pot was white people from different nationalities different nationalities blending together to form one culture. That was the thinking of the late 1800s. Despite the hopes of settlement workers, immigrants often held on to their traditions. They established their own fraternal lodges, schools, and religious institutions such as churches. Immigrants' children, however, became more Americanized. Y'all see that same shit today. Okay. Right now, we're talking about these white immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe. But today, when you got these new immigrants, these Hispanics and shit like that, you see a lot of them try to cling to their language. They're still speaking that Spanish. You be in the store with them, they still speaking Spanish and shit. Okay. But then their kids are bilingual. They know English and Spanish. They translate shit for mom and dad. You know what I'm talking about? While the parent grew up playing soccer, the kid grew up playing, soccer and basketball and football and shit. You know what I'm talking about? So they become more Americanized. It's the same shit. The difference is these immigrants were white, so they were allowed to blend more easily, while the immigrants of today are non-whites. And Trump is saying, I'm gonna kick you motherfuckers out. Immigrants often dealt with nativism and hostility from native-born white Americans. Religious differences and competition for jobs and housing led to divisions and prejudices. Sound familiar? Does that shit sound? Motherfuckers act like their ancestors were not once immigrants, bro. They really do. Look at this. Take a look at this cartoon. I love this political cartoon. Love it, love it, love it. Take a close look at it. I'm gonna give y'all a chance to try to analyze this motherfucker. Pause this bitch if you need to. Cause this is some dope shit. Okay. All right. Hopefully you had some time to break this bitch down. Okay. Hopefully you had some time. But ultimately, you got these cats standing here. They got their top hats on and shit. Got their expensive coats on and shit. And they're telling this immigrant getting off the boat, they stop. They don't want you. But this cartoonist shows out in the shadows. Those shadows are showing you these cats' ancestors, that their ancestors were once immigrants. Hell, if not them. But now they sitting up here trying to tell this motherfucker, no, we don't want you. It's pointing out the hypocrisy, dog. That's why I fuck with this shit. It's pointing out the hypocrisy of these fucking nativists. But we just sent one to the White. Well, they just sent one to the White House again. Let's keep it moving. In 1882, Congress started to restrict immigration to the United States. The Chinese Exclusion Act prohibited immigration by Chinese laborers, limited the rights of Chinese immigrants in the U.S., and forbade the naturalization of Chinese residents. Congress passed another law that prohibited the immigration of anyone who was a criminal, immoral, a pauper, meaning a poor person, or likely to need public assistance. So look at this law, y'all, the Chinese Exclusion Act. See how fucking racist this shit is? They were telling motherfuckers point blank, period, we do not fucking want you. Exclusion comes from the word exclude. To exclude somebody to leave them the fuck out. The name of the damn law was saying, Chinese folk, we leaving you the fuck out of America. Come on, dog. Come on, dog. The shit we seeing now is nothing new if you know your history. It's nothing new. It's nothing new, dog. This nativist streak has been in America. But the shit is they be want motherfuckers over here to work. That be the crazy shit. Like your common man be like, y'all taking our jobs. But the rich man be like, yeah, y'all come on in and get these jobs. Because I know y'all gonna do work for a little bit of nut. And then the common man steady be doing the bidding of the rich man who is enticing these motherfuckers to come over here. Get the fuck out of here, man. Common man and woman need to get some fucking sense. This shit been going down. Been going down. Ain't nothing new. Last one, y'all. Immigrants transformed American society. They fueled industrial growth. They helped build the railroads and worked in factories, mills, and mines. Those just facts. Their traditions became part of American culture. That's just facts. Increasingly, they became active in labor unions and politics, and they demanded reforms. That was true then. That is true today. So, that concludes this section, y'all. All right. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope y'all learned something. Okay. About when white folks were the main immigrants, at least in an industrial age here in the United States of America. Hopefully, you can see that a lot of this shit that we're going through right now, we've already been through before. What we were supposed to do is learn from the mistakes of the past so we don't do this shit no more. But obviously, we haven't put it on some